Hello, Renee. My name is Ellen, and I will be correcting this set of essays for you. I'm very happy that you have submitted a set of essays for us to correct. Great job. It's nice to see you working hard in order to prepare for IELTS and also getting feedback for IELTS. So let's get into this straight away. Okay, first we've got the bar chart about the 3 car companies in Europe. Let's see what you wrote. Okay, so the bar chart illustrates in 2018 the sales of different vehicle brands, okay, in European countries, okay. Usually we put the year at the end, so it should have been the bar chart illustrates the sales of different vehicle brands, Ford, Audi, and BMW, in European countries in 2018. It's a more logical way of organizing this. Overall, it is clear that comparing with other countries, Hungary remained the largest number. No, this is a little awkward. You can't say that Hungary remained the largest number of car consumption. It's like they didn't consume cars, they purchased cars. So, how about this? Hungary was the, no, how about this? Hungary held the largest number of car purchases in all 3 brands, with Ford the largest amount, okay, followed by Audi and BMW. Belgium, however, had the least amount of car sales, especially for Audi, Belgium. Okay, Audi and BMW. All right, fine. I actually didn't think that Ford was higher. I thought they were all pretty equal, but okay, I mean, detail really. Let's go on. With regard to Ford, it was the most popular vehicle choice among all the countries in Europe. To be more specific, not ALLY, to be more specific, Hungary accounted for the highest figure, which was almost 400s. Okay, this should be 400. Basically, you've misunderstood something, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But this is incorrect, 400,000. France had just over 300,000 sales, and countries like Germany, Ireland, as well as Holland shared similar figures, which were around 280,000. All right, you can't just put an S there. You have to actually put the 3 zeros as well. Okay? We'll talk about it in a minute as to why this is incorrect. We'll get there in a minute. Moving on, for Germany, for both Germany and Hungary, BMW had the highest number of purchases, around 125,000, while sales of this type of car had a slightly lower number in France and Ireland. Let me see what you said about Germany and Hungary. Let's see, Germany and Hungary, you said that they had 125, okay? While sales of this car had a slightly lower number in France and Ireland, which were approximately 120,000. Audi has higher and similar level of sales in Hungary and Germany with 280. Okay, so fine. I want to talk about this a little bit. I really kind of feel like you've misunderstood this a little bit. So what's happening here? Absolutely, Hungary has the highest, but this what we're looking at is a stacked bar chart. What does that mean? It means that they really want you to know the total in each country, that this is absolutely important. And the total for Hungary, for example, was around 400,000. In contrast, Belgium was under 100,000. Of the 400,000 that made up Hungary's sales, it was divided pretty equally. So you've got a little over 100,000 here, a little over 100,000 here, and a little over 100,000 here. So maybe like 130, 130, and 130, for example. Okay, that's why it's in a stack, because the real thing of interest is that total. But they also want you to know what went into making that total. Okay, so when you kept saying that Ford had, for example, 400,000 and France had just above 300,000, that's incorrect. Okay, instead, Ford had around 130 here. Ford had around 150,000 here. And in Belgium, it had maybe around like 90,000. All right, so I hope you understand that that's what these figures really mean here. That's what these blocks of color really mean. And so I think that you misunderstood what was happening here. Now, let's talk a little bit about organization. There are a handful of ways of organizing this. Personally, I think that some ways are maybe a little more efficient than others. So what I suggest is spending an entire paragraph, all right, because you did have 2 detailed paragraphs. I suggest spending 1 paragraph just focusing on these totals. All right, it doesn't have to be an extremely detailed paragraph. You focus on this 400,000 here. You focus on this just below 100,000 here. Perhaps on this just, or actually, let me back up a minute. I would focus on this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then just say that the remaining figures were all between 200,000 and 300,000 car sales. Okay, so that's how you do it. You focus on those highs, you focus on those lows, and then when you have a lot of numbers that are just kind of like in the middle of those, just kind of, organize them together. So that's how I would do that paragraph. Then I would spend another paragraph talking about the individual car sales themselves. Once again, I would use these figures along the side. So I would probably, personally, I always think that BMW sold more cars because by and large, it had more times where it was around 100,000 than Ford did. So I would probably say something like BMW sold the most number of cars with approximately 100,000 cars sold in every country except for Belgium, where it sold a negligible amount. The second highest number of cars were sold by Ford. It recorded large figures in both Hungary and Holland, where it, I don't know, we have to figure that number out. It looks like it's maybe around 120, 130, maybe even 140,000, maybe. Okay, so in these countries it recorded around 140,000 sales. The least number of Ford cars were purchased by Germany and Italy at around 20,000. And the remaining countries all sold between, I don't know, whatever Poland is and whatever France is. All right, so that's pretty much how I would organize this. And this way, you're including all the information, but you're not spending too much time on the wrong information. And in this case, the wrong information is all of those middle figures because they're not particularly telling, they're not particularly impressive in any single way. So like I said, it's one way to organize this, but it's not the only way. But it's really important that you understand what a stacked bar chart is and what it represents. Okay, it's also really important that your figures are accurate. This 300 with the S at the end really didn't mean a lot to me. You should have just wrote 300,000 with like the extra 3 zeros. Okay? And that's pretty much it for this. Let's move on to your task 2, which is the international marketing question. 267 words is what you said here. I'm just going to double check. I think that's accurate. It looks accurate. Yep, it is absolutely accurate. All right, so let's take a look at what you wrote. All right, so let's check out the international marketing essay now. Let's get into it. With the increasing trend of globalization, international marketing is becoming more and more popular among businesses. Some argue that this is invasive and an intrusion into the country, while others believe that this is unavoidable and a good way to educate the market along with spreading ideas, language, and culture. I personally support this point of view. All right, this is fine. It's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it except for one little thing. Look at this. Invasive and an intrusion into the country. And then look here. Invasive and an intrusion into the country. And then spreading ideas, language, and culture. Spreading ideas, language, and culture. Now, as you know, you are supposed to, you are supposed to rephrase the language in the prompt. You don't have to rephrase absolutely every single word, of course, but you don't want to copy entire chunks of language. And unfortunately, that's what you've done here in 2 places. I want to remind you that the introduction is the examiner's first impression of your writing. And so you want to show that you do have novel vocabulary, you know, just your own vocabulary. And of course, any sections of language that are lifted from the prompt are going to be removed from your final word count. So keep that in mind. All right. I also didn't think that this was a very fluid way of supporting this particular argument. There was a better way to do it, not just one way, but there are multiple ways of doing this a little more, like I said, fluidly. Let's see. Some people argue that this is invasive and intrusion and an intrusion into the country, while others, comma, myself included, comma, believe that this is unavoidable and a good way to educate the market along with spreading ideas, language, and culture. Okay? Or you could have said, I personally support this latter point of view, also making it a little more clear. Let's move on. Although I got to be honest with you, grammatically it's not the most correct, but at least your reader will understand what you're talking about. Let's just move on now. It is undeniable that international marketing might be seen as an intrusion into the local country as it results in furious competition, singular, between businesses. To embrace international businesses, okay, means it is more difficult for local producers, ERS, to keep up with their businesses, and hence there is a risk of closing down. For example, people in my country prefer to drink coffee at Starbucks because of better environment and convenience, while many tea makers were forced to close their factories. The traditional tea culture has therefore been gradually abandoned and lost. Okay, you need to be careful here because this really sounds to me much more like a paragraph about international trade and globalization rather than international marketing. There was absolutely nothing about the marketing of these companies, the marketing of these businesses, that made it feel relevant to the topic. So it's just kind of loosely related to what we're related to what we're talking about, which is international marketing. But really what you wrote is about global trade and just about globalization and not international marketing. However, international marketing is the trend, and it is also a way to promote a country's culture. The widespread global marketing provides opportunities for people to experience new products, and it is likely that they are motivated to learn more about the language and culture inherited. Okay. For instance, Japanese brand Uniqlo is famous for its simple and comfortable design, which has captured many Western customers' attentions. They are curious to find out more about the Japanese fashion through reading books or watching Japanese movies. Culture exchange is achieved through such forms of education. Okay, it's nicely written. Again, you haven't totally convinced me that this is about marketing, especially when you start talking about Uniqlo. It's difficult to kind of figure out that it's the marketing that has promoted all of this interest in Japanese culture and not the product that is available in stores itself. So I feel like there's something missing here. It's not wrong, it's not bad, but it's not 100% on target, okay? Let's see. You know what, let me show you what I mean. Rather than talking straight away about this brand, maybe you could have talked about the way it is marketed, about internet ads, and about, I don't know, the way it is marketed in social media, or, the way we find out about it even through Instagrammers and so forth. So maybe you could have talked a little bit more about that, like influencers are wearing it. So maybe you could have talked about that. That's more really marketing than just talking about the company itself. Okay, so this is where you kind of got a little off topic again. You didn't quite really grasp it the way you needed to. But again, it's really well written, a lot of nice grammar, a lot of nice vocabulary. So in many, many respects, it's lovely. But the task achievement is not quite where and what it should be. So in a nutshell, despite international business bringing ING competition, my honest opinion is that it plays a vital role in terms of promoting a country's Y apostrophe S, get rid of the IES, it should be Y apostrophe S, culture and values. Okay, I want you to be really careful about the grammar of your conclusion. It's the last thing that your examiner is going to read, and after reading it, the examiner is going to start giving you a score for your essay. So you really don't want to make any errors there. In fact, you don't want to make errors really, or you want to make as few as possible in your introduction here and in your conclusion. Okay, it's important that that first impression and that last impression are really strong. So I thought you did a very nice job, Rene, in general. There were a lot of things that I really liked about this. Like I said, I thought a lot of the grammar was good, a lot of the vocabulary was good, but you did kind of miss the mark with task achievement. I thought you said that your exam is coming up this weekend. I believe that's what I read. So I want to wish you tons of luck. In all likelihood, you're not going to have a chance to work with us before your exam again. But if in the future, for whatever reason, you need our assistance to prepare for IELTS, please let us know. We'd be happy to work with you. There are lots of different packages that you can look at and see which one fits your needs. So best of luck on your exam, and I look forward to hearing news from you about how it went. Good luck.